Now, it has been a crazy week in the cryptocurrency markets, and we have seen numerous things from the previous videos begin to come through, with notable factors such as XRP taking out all-time highs, which I think, just to throw out there straight away, is a massive danger sign for the market temporarily. Ethereum has surged up higher. The immediate thing you need to be watching for right now is what I said in the previous video. Quite frankly, a black swan risk is here right now, and we're going to be explaining this in the video today. We are up significantly on altcoins right now, and for the first time in a long time, I'm going to be showing you guys some of the profits and portfolio. This is something we used to do before. When we turned 30k to 600k with XRP, we would always show after we have taken the entries or potential exits with members. I personally think right now the best is yet to come. We have had a rather large amount of profits come through in the past week and month. But what I think could be on the cusp of happening here now is some form of pullback. We have now got the full-blown squeeze on altcoins. We have seen multiple targets given to members met. I think we're going to go higher, significantly higher for altcoins. But before that happens, we now need to be cautious of those risks. And for the remainder of July, we need to be prepared for something bad. Do not be scared of what I'm telling you here. You know I'm bullish now, but there is a great danger of a crash. The key to understand with this is this will likely be the buying opportunity of a lifetime. I have taken some profits out of the market, nothing crazy. But if we see what I think could happen, I will officially go all in to the market. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into the markets. Now, jumping straight onto the charts, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't think I could be more excited right now, and I want to explain this further. So in the previous videos, we've obviously been looking at the idea that the market could possibly surge. And I'll be honest, I've been a bit uncertain on whether alts would catch up or not, because I personally see BTC beginning to reverse. Now, we've got a bit of a squeeze higher. The levels I give you guys are reference points and slightly different to the levels I give members, but we've basically hit, in my opinion, a collective risky area. Now, the simplicity and why I've been a bit confused over the past week is whether or not my altcoins will pump, because BTC for me is indicating a massive reversal risk, and I want to break this down. Fortunately, we have seen the full-blown capacity of a movement we wanted to see. And as a matter of fact, my targets were struck perfectly on the two coins I bought. So before we even delve into the charts, you guys have obviously known that I've been a bit more bullish, and I told you I've been buying. So I'm going to show you the results of those now as well, so you can actually see a bit of transparency and some real money that I haven't shown in a while. Now, we're going to start off here on one of my Kraken portfolios. I have two Kraken portfolios, and I have several portfolios for that matter. But this is actually the original portfolio where I turned $30,000 to $600,000 with XRP in the 2021 cycle. Now this, I took a lot of money out of this, several $100,000, and I invested that in multiple places. I spent some of the profits. I've done all sorts of things, and this was down, as we can see, a month ago to $374,000. And in the space of a month, with the investments I made, it has jumped $143,000. This was actually higher yesterday. We've had a bit of a pullback since, and for the last 7 days, up 100k alone. So despite actually withdrawing a lot of money out of this, the recent altcoins I bought and got myself into with the members have performed significantly well, both of which have achieved over 100%. So we've seen some crazy results thus far. I have another portfolio which is currently resting. I'll refresh that just to see what it looks like now, around $93,000 as well. I've got another portfolio here on KuCoin as well, which is up around 17k, because we put 10k into another altcoin as well on this particular platform with the members. That's done around 77%. So we've just seen an absolutely fantastic outcome so far. And between these two wallets alone, that's around $700,000 pretty much collectively on 3 portfolios. I've also got another Kraken, which is on the iPad account. Well, I'll bring it up on the screen so you guys can see. And I've also got a meme coin wallet as well, which is resting somewhere around $40,000. So Collectively, we're around $800,000 at present without really seeing the full scope of movements we're looking for. So before I obviously delve into showing you and giving you my thoughts that I think we could potentially see a crash, I want to, number one, show you this so you can see that I'm positioned. This does not come from a sideline standpoint. In fact, I'm doing pretty damn good. I recently took on this portfolio $30,000 off. And when I say recently, I took this off the table last night. Took this off the table last night. I had around $160,000 sidelined on this particular portfolio. I have a bit more across different platforms and stuff and different funds, and I have other portfolios I'm not going to show you. But this particular portfolio, which is specifically for public matters, had $160,000 left to buy any further dips, and I believe those dips will come. But that's boosted back up to $194,000 at the moment with the recent wave of profit taking as well. And what I'll do is I will now show you the entries and just an idea of the exits on those coins. So again, I'm not going to show you the name of the coin, but I am going to show you the entries and one of the current exits on these coins as well. So I've actually been scaling into this one since 2024. Bought the first Pico low at that point in time, DCA'd a bit more there, added a bit more there, and on the recent dip added some more. And quite frankly, fantastic entries overall. And this was one of the coins we took profit on with the members last night for $15,000. So I thought, you know what? I'm beginning to see a risk factor here in the market. There is a risk factor for me present at the moment, which I think warrants a little bit of profit taking. Now, as you can clearly see, in comparison to the collective value of my portfolio, taking $30,000 off the table is really meaningless to me. And if anything, just is a protection mechanism. It allows me to hold the remainder longer while simultaneously making sure I continuously capitalize on the market. And this is a strategy that I've got guides on in the app. It's what I teach members. It's a real formula I've curated, and I'm actually going to be breaking something along these lines down in future videos for you guys as well. But quite simply, I took this money off last night and I woke up this morning and I'd made that money back in profit with a tiny squeeze higher of a few cents. So I'm in a really good position now. I've got more than enough within the market, but simultaneously, I want to deploy this 200K basically. And I think what could be happening next may very well be the key to this. Now, I'm also going to show you one of the other coins that we bought as well, another incredible set of entries and a rather nice exit to pair as well. So I originally bought this coin back in 2023 when it first broke its all-time lows. Again, really showing real life proof of not just real entries and that I actually trade and make money in this market, which hopefully warrants a bit of a justification for why I show certain things and say certain things, because I really do this shit for real. Now, we bought here originally, held this up, took a bit of profits there, and decided to go in significantly heavier around here, scaling in at these lows on that recent dip. Now, these lows are the US World War III FUD that I told you about. So if you've watched those previous YouTube videos, you would have seen that I said we would go to 98K.
Where you want to be really looking towards 98K into the 90K region, I think there is a prospect here for another drive higher.
Well, I put my money where my mouth was, not into BTC, but into altcoins. And that goes for the previous coin I just showed you as well. And I've just taken a bit of profit out of these now, still holding the majority of the position. But for me, there is a great risk at this point that before we start to get real full-blown targets, and before we see these things start to achieve their true potential and capability, which I personally think is all part of the overall $5 trillion plus target for the total market cap and everything that comes with it. You know, I am looking at the moment, even with what I hold, to make around $500,000 to $1 million with the current holdings. But if I start to deploy the full-blown Monty of the remaining $200,000, specifically with a dip, then we should be looking more towards the realms of maybe 3 million to 5 million on these current plays so far. And bearing in mind, everything I'm showing you here started with $30,000. So we're essentially at and within the 800K, almost at the $1 million threshold already. And this all started from XRP. And on the note of XRP, I think XRP is about to become the classic indication here of what we often see. Now, I haven't been spot on with XRP, haven't been absolutely spot on. In fact, I sold most of my holdings. If you haven't already seen this, so to be completely transparent and show you the journey of XRP, well, a lot of this started from here in 2020 during the COVID crash. And as you know, crashes of that nature are my birthing ground. You can see in 2020 to 2021, sold, bought, sold, bought, sold. That was for a giveaway, just so you know. I didn't buy the top. That was like $1,000 or something. Sold, 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 reinvested here, took a nice amount out here, and then sold on the way up here. Now, although XRP's gone higher, what I've done is taken a lot of that money and essentially spread the seed from the profits XRP gave me. But I'm essentially now looking to repeat this process on coins that look like XRP here, which is exactly what I've been doing, and think those will be the next XRP in the sequence. Now, with this situation here, I still hold a huge amount of XRP, by the way. That's somewhere safe and sound. But for the active trading portfolio, where the goal is to actively trade, I'm still very happy with what I've achieved on this. You know, a lot of people could say, well, you could have made more. Well, yeah, but I also could have made absolutely nothing. And for what I made, I'm grateful and always will be grateful. So this now plays a big role in everything for me because I've always been somewhat connected to XRP. And if we go over to the charts, I'll explain why. Now, there is one notorious top signal that tends to develop within the markets, and that for me is always XRP. It's often one of the last ones to move and the last ones to really solidify what could be happening here. Now, I personally think Ethereum, as I've been saying in the videos, will be one of the biggest performers here. We haven't got the levels on the chart, but I think you guys know by now, I do believe F could possibly achieve $8,000 to $10,000. The key here in these moments is to assess XRP as one of the largest cult coins out there with an unwavering belief of it will go to $1 million billion once Swift adopts it, whatever, you know, the usual stuff you hear. The fact of the matter is we treat this with technicals like any other. And I think XRP could be the blueprint here and the catalyst to what may very well happen next. Now, looking at the altcoins we've captured, before I even purchased those coins and made those investments on those two specific altcoins, I mapped out exactly where we were going to sell and exactly where we were going to buy with the idea that this would hopefully happen. I was almost confused last week, like, is it actually going to move? But thankfully they did. And my main concern in the previous video was they wouldn't catch up. But now that these alts have driven up, I think there is one simple reason for this. BTC, in my opinion, is preparing to die. Either back, well, first of all, 110K, easy peasy, lemon squeezy downside target. Could possibly get a drive up next week. We could confirm to spike into 125. But personally, I feel at the moment this could die pretty quickly. And if it doesn't happen this week, over the remainder of this month, I think we're going to drive down. BTC for me is looking incredibly dangerous. And in all honesty, if something very bad still happens, which it very well can, considering what's just happened in the market, I would be looking down to this trend line, which, Lord behold, is back down to $80,000. Pretty much the same level I've been talking about for ages. I just said, I don't think that's going to come through until this sort of move happens. And now we've seen this achieved, BTC looks weak. So then we go over to these altcoins and go, well, hold on a minute. We have officially and finally broken the highs on the total market cap chart. That is a contributing factor of XRP and Ethereum. Now, as always, I look at these in these situations and go, why are they driving up now? And is the market making it too easy? Quite frankly, I would honestly rather be wrong about this. But this is what I currently see, so I need to assess it. But again, showing you how much I'm in, how much I've got, the fact I've trimmed a bit of profit off, and how much I'm looking to reinvest if so, alongside how much I will make if I'm wrong, it warrants this factor. I think that's fair. People won't like this, especially when I tell you what I think about XRP. But I couldn't care less about opinions. I care about making money. That's always the bottom goal. So it's in my best interest for the market to go higher. But I think with where we are and the signs we see, these coins are likely catching up and have caught up to drop in symmetry with BTC. And I've always said this, but why I want the altcoin catch up and why we've now, thank God, got that is because BTC is at a great risk of, number one, dropping to a modest 110, back to 100,000. Remember, I'm not going to give you the exact targets I am looking at, but I think between all these checkpoints, the most likely is the 100K area. And these two levels are now very, very possible. Why is that? Well, and why could this benefit wider rules? First and foremost, you do not want to be chasing altcoins that look like XRP. And in fact, if we enlarge the XRP chart here, it has done what we were hoping it would do. I'm still very open to that $4 region, by the way. That has been there since $2. I've told you about this since $2. In fact, I said we would likely get this move. I kept saying I think XRP is going to push to 3 at least, and we've got it. I think where we are is probably the key level right now, but this has liquidated the high. Whoa, excuse me, and it's liquidated again. That for me is the greatest danger in the world. And I think a very simple thing is about to happen here. Number one, I think XRP from here and around this level, factoring in a possible squeeze up to $4, will crash down to $2. However, with extreme circumstances, which are always more likely to happen here, the real black swan, I personally at this current point in time believe it will go back to $1, potentially rapidly. And this could be the optimal bottom signal, I feel. There's a lot of FOMO in XRP as always. And again, I can only imagine what the comments will say about this because they'll be in disbelief. I personally think this is the best thing that could happen for us right now because XRP has been a significant performer. And I think Ethereum still has way more to go to take out its highs. We need to look at those that have made the most progression in terms of all-time highs. That means for a rotation to happen, and also the first YouTube video I made returning back to YouTube was called Why I Believe in an Alt Season. The thumbnail is an arrow drawn up to a $5 trillion market cap. This is where shit gets exciting. Now, this has only just freshly taken out its highs. So the total market cap has two real key levels to watch for here. Number one is back down to these lows around the $3 trillion threshold. But this is at grave danger now of dropping back to this trend line as well, the same as BTC. And what we really want to see here is if this is to happen, ideally, the worse of the news, the more surprising, the more shocking, just be open-minded to this, it may not happen. The worst that happens is if it doesn't happen, the market goes higher and we're going to make a lot of money at this point. It's beautiful. What a great position to be in. But I think risks are justifiable here because as we covered Crypto Week, last night we had the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act, all passed by the US House. Now, this is number one, the first risk for me here. It is not entirely confirmed yet. It is not confirmed. We need Trump to sign, and there could be objections, there could be delays, there could be various things that play a fundamental role in it not happening. I always look at the opposite side here. Why is that? Because we've just broken fresh all-time highs on everything whilst BTC currently looks bearish. That means these altcoins at the moment have likely caught up to fall in symmetry with BTC, and they can now fall from a higher standpoint. We've also, with the bullish price action, a catalyst we always look for, have seen paired bullish news. Everyone believes this is bullish. Now, I agree. This is fucking bullish. However, this is normally where traps are deployed. And the worse something can happen here, ideally, the greater the buying opportunity. And why I say this is because I believe an opportunity of a lifetime could develop here. Essentially, wipe out everyone that's chased a trend, completely U-turn the potential sentiment, well, not the potential, the actual sentiment from pure FOMO to complete fear. Profits to bring the rest of the altcoins higher must be rotated. And we can now see proof that alt season is real. I've told you I believe in an alt season. You can see the evidence here. I think we're going higher in the most simplistic terms here. But I think something bad will likely happen before the best is yet to come. And this could set us up for the remainder of the year to see a very, very aggressive bullish rally. If we go over to the total market cap here, I personally believe between this level to this region could crash aggressively. This should give us the springboard to start tackling the $5 trillion region. Why is that? Because that is there. I've shown you this in previous videos. Now, where's BTC right now? BTC, and I've drawn this out for you in previous videos also, has now struck this level. Almost pinpoint, as a matter of fact. Rejected. There is a great risk of one more possible squeeze. You want to be very careful of that towards 125. But if you now look at that, is it not safe to assume that the total market cap would also revisit that level? I would say it is. Now, we've also seen some news here of Trump allegedly having a chronic illness. It makes me wonder what could happen. I'm looking at everything here, from the Epstein list to Trump's health conditions to another war risk to tariffs. Something unexpected could happen here. Whether it's related to the acts not being approved and going ahead, something could happen to cause a shakeup. And it's not the first time we've seen this. In fact, in every cycle, when at fresh highs, something often destroys the show, keyword, temporarily. So you want to be very open-minded here. And I think, as always, I'm not going to give you specifics, but I'm going to give you a rough idea and basically tell you that if something of this nature happens, even back to 110, it should not be feared. In fact, even down to $80,000. If we get that revisit, now that I've switched bullish and we've seen the upside targets fulfilled, I want to be open-minded to look at the risk, because I think this would be the catalyst. And quite simply, this would nuke altcoins back down. Let's say the full-blown move to the trend line. I think that would cause a massive sell-off that would lead to a rally towards the end of the year, and BTC would start to tackle the $130,000 to $150,000 region. And within this rally would be alt season. The key here is XRP. F potentially all the way back down. You've got all your key levels here that I've got for you guys, and you want to keep your eyes peeled on this. What you first of all need to wait for is the weekly time frame. There is a great risk here, and I feel it's fair to do this video, because if it happens, I don't want you guys to suffer. I do not want anyone to suffer here. And it's very easy in these moments to be full-blown bullish and sell you a dream. But I've been bullish for where it's necessary, and that's been from here to there. But you also want to look at this and go, hold on a minute. The total market cap's just broken that trend line. I don't think we could have a greater confirmation at this point. We may not need to go all the way down here, by the way. I'm just saying, if something bad happens, set your eyes down to those lows of 80,000. When I say bad, if the market pulls back down without any bad news, or just generally has a cooling off period, no problemo. But often, this is that birthing ground of a black swan. And I've said this anyway, over the next 2 weeks or so, especially, you really want to be careful here. Do not fear this. You want to leverage this if this happens, because it will shake everyone out. There's a lot of long liquidations to be targeted. There's a lot of bad things to really occur here. The fact that's broken already is the best possible sign, because we now have an indication that the total market cap is going to go higher. And I think to the worst extent there, modest here, logical midpoint there. Between these levels, depending on the news, again, I already have an idea where I think it will actually go, and that's for members. But this could be the optimal second shot for anyone that is not yet in. I am very glad I'm in, because quite frankly, I don't really care if it doesn't happen at this point. I am all for the moon. But I think XRP is the warning sign, as it always is. And if you go over here, this happened before on a smaller scale, but that doesn't always make a new high. Now, you're going to hear every single prediction under the sun for XRP. Of course you will. Of course you will, because people are invested heavily into this. We have actually just come in to a series of vital trend lines here. Major cross point struck, 1, 2, 3. Broken bullish trend has come into reject. This is at great risk, and we could even pull back down by the end of the week. And that's the first thing we want to watch for. Is this going to close below its highs by the end of the week? And is the total market cap going to do the same? Now we've flushed the highs. I think a lot of people will likely be buying in anticipation of 4 trillion as well, looking at the total market cap there. If we could hit that, it's a bonus. But I think at this point, there could be a turning point on the cards. And going back to XRP, between $2, again, logical pullback level, to the great risk, I personally think it could go to $1. The key behind this is the money is here right now, right? This is where most of the money is, including Ethereum. If we can see these things sell off, this will allow the mid caps to lower caps to get a serious capital injection. So it's temporarily fearful, so to speak, but I wouldn't even call it FUD because honestly, I don't care at this point if it doesn't happen, but I think it will. I think it will. And it's worth warranting a bit of caution because if this happens, XRP can dump, wipe out everyone. Why is this? Also, let's keep it simple. Forget the trend lines. You said I don't show enough technicals, but I'm showing you enough technicals from this alone just to give you a bit of an insight. But I think now you want to keep this simple, guys. Monthly time frame. First of all, how's the monthly going to close? Secondly, we're in a range here. We've just taken out the range highs and the all-time high again. This could potentially mark the top up to $4 for XRP this cycle, believe it or not. That's what I think will happen, up to that $4 region or so. If we flush these highs, there is a greater chance these lows can get obliterated. This could mark the bottom. We have seen this before. It rugs. It bounces back up. It does not make another high. It rugs. It bounces back up. And here is where the remaining alts begin to surge. This could be where Ethereum rugs back down to the 2000s, and if we're lucky, lower. This could be where BTC begins to rug. And that move up there would be this move up here with BTC going to 130 to 150, Ethereum going up to the 8,000s to 10,000s, which would probably play a very significant role in the total market cap surge. Furthermore, leading many other altcoins, such as the ones I hold, and will look to potentially buy, to go into a meteoric finale for this cycle. And this could all happen, in theory, by the end of the year. I think I'm pretty confident on the idea at this point that now that we've seen the upside moves, XRP taking out the highs is normally my greatest danger sign as always. I will probably sell some of my personal holdings in theory as well because there is a bit of a risk here and I can't be bothered to hold this all the way back down. But I do get this a lot and I don't care what people's opinions are, but I do believe this will be back down to the 50 cents low, at least, if not going lower, in the next bear market. And now that we're at this region, we need to be very careful because all of that sentiment, all of that FOMO is flowing into buying XRP. This could cause one of the great catalysts that we often see in these areas. So I think for the remainder of this month, specifically moving into next week, there'll be more confirmations with weekly candle closures. But I think we are at the great risk here of something very bad happening and the calm before the storm. Do not look at this as negative in any way. Look at this as a second shot if you're lucky. The worst extent really at this point would be in the kind of 90, 80K region. But honestly, I don't think it would get any worse than that. And I think that would just be the final trap. You know, you normally see in these circumstances something bad that just wipes everyone. And if it happens with enough aggression, that is the buy signal. That is the buy signal. And the one to really watch here is XRP, quite frankly. It would give everything a pullback, you know, getting dangerously close to the highs, nuking back down, and then before you know it, we are higher than ever, but most people get shaken out in the process. So I've revealed a bit more in this video, more so because we're at an area where I feel a risk like this, I don't like seeing people get fucked by the market. And this is where emotions are the absolute highest, always the highest, where people want more and more and more. And I think we're going to get more. In fact, probably beyond your wildest dreams. But I think your focus should not be on the coins that look like XRP right now, or even Ethereum. Yeah, you can say, okay, in 10 years it will be $10, but you don't know that. You believe that, but you don't know that. So it's a dangerous area to buy irrespective of what your beliefs are because it's fresh all-time highs. And BTC is looking weak. So in simple terms, we have now seen the drive up to initiate the first rotation. These have now caught up to catch up. Because if this now falls, if F was still there, it would have probably gone to $500. But now that it's up here, it can plausibly just go back to its lows in the worst case, maybe a bit lower. Same as XRP. It's actually quite logical to view it in this way. And I think the key is going to be seeing something like this. So a bit of risk is warranted. But furthermore, I also wanted to go back to the old school, Torre, of showing you some of my actual buys and sells and the profits as well. I'm happy to ride any potential wave down on the portfolio because I've still got 200k on some of the portfolios, or one portfolio I've showed you, and I've got more elsewhere as well to leverage any potential FUD. So I'm basically hedged on both sides at this point. Like if we were to absolutely bolster higher, I'm going to make a great amount of money once again. But I think preparation is always vital in these regions because even the most modest of pullbacks, I'm giving you three thresholds essentially. Simple, 110. 100k, more logical. Extreme, which is very possible in these areas, you want to be looking below 90k. None of that should scare you. And if anything, should make you very, very excited because what likely follows from there is a very, very beautiful end to the year, I feel. Now that we've seen all of this come through, we've got the squeezes. I honestly think the best is truly yet to come. And if the market could bless us with this opportunity, as always, backed with a juicy, sexy dose of FUD, it's showtime, man. It's showtime. So just be cautious, as always. Hopefully, I've provided you a bit of reassurance with some live funds, which we haven't done in a while. But otherwise, a bit of caution is warranted. Something bad is probably coming. And that should then take us to glorious new heights, I would say. And I'll be showing you more of the transactions after they've obviously happened, of course. Again, key is not to sell everything. You can't be foolish and sell it all here for coins that are still near all-time lows. But, you know, the fact that we're seeing profits of 100k in a week from coins still trading at all-time lows is very, very exciting. So I can only imagine what happens if the full-blown scale comes through. But I do believe the total market cap will get there. I do believe we will get there, possibly by the end of the year. We just want to see a real big shake-up before that actually starts to happen. So really exciting times in the markets for me. It feels good. I'm really glad as well I finally bought back in. I almost didn't. But because of that sign, like I said, that was my justification to buy because I knew it wasn't the black swan. But like I said, I think once this starts to break, it's very possible a black swan can generally happen. So you want to be very, very careful in these levels. And again, I don't care if you are a diehard, you know, someone said to me earlier, why do you dislike XRP? I don't. I just see this happening in the markets. You should not have an emotional attachment to these coins. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. This is nothing more than my humble opinion and humble viewpoint of the market that I find from my technical analysis. I don't show you what goes into that, but you've seen now it's clearly right and working. So I'm going to take the same application I've applied in private with the members to give you a rough idea of just some modest checkpoints. Don't take this as hatred. Don't take this as nothing. I've clearly got enough in the market not to care. But I'm really excited, honestly. I think some great opportunities are on the horizon here. God knows what they're going to cook up to potentially whip up a storm of this nature. But the opportunities are truly endless. And in the grand scheme of things, this is all very, very bullish overall. I think we have great heights to conquer. We just, as always, need to watch out for the waves in between and the speed bumps. And if you learn to prepare and navigate that properly, which is something we teach in absolute sheer depth within the app, you will gauge how to be excited by these things and not scared by them. Because in the, in the long run, we've got so much higher to go. But the market doesn't always give us that when we want. Think about how many people here have probably finally FOMO'd in, especially seeing the Clarity Act, Genius Act, and all that nonsense approved now, which actually completely goes against what crypto stands for, which is pathetic. But people are celebrating this as bullish. So we have bullish news with bullish prices. As always, generally tends to be a recipe for disaster. And if something does pull this back down, the more aggressive, the better. People will get shaken out and too scared to buy, which is perfect because that will mark the next bottom. So between the checkpoints provided, be cautious. I will, of course, update further once we get our weekly closure moving into next week as well. But I've got a whole new format of videos coming for you guys as well. And the first one's dropping Sunday, which actually delves much further into this. I recorded it on Monday, but I wanted to do this today. Now we've got some movement, and then it's ready to rumble basically. It's ready to drop, but I'm going to drop it Sunday for the end of the week so you guys have more time to view it. And hopefully you really enjoy it. But yeah, So far, so good. Made a fucking killing, to be honest with you. Made a huge amount of money. And now I want to see that temporarily weaken so I can make a lot more money. How exciting.